So you want to learn Japanese. I struggled for over 10 years, making painfully slow progress. Then I discovered a free method that changed everything. Suddenly, I started to understand Japanese shows and games. How did I do it? In this video, I'll give you the complete roadmap and tools that would have saved me not only money, but also years of trial and error. First of all, get an overview of what you are about to throw yourself into. The most important things to know are that Japanese consists of 3 different writing systems: Hiragana, Katakana and Kanji. It's also a language where in terms of pronunciation, pitch accent is important, as it can change the meaning of some words. Don't worry about the details yet. It might sound complicated, but when you approach it step by step, you will notice it is not. Knowing this, I would now learn the 46 hiragana. These are considered mora, meaning every hiragana has the same length when spoken. If you keep at it, that shouldn't take long, maybe a week or 2. Now, I would approach this a bit differently than what most people are doing. I would learn them by directly connecting character and sound. A lot of people try to learn them by looking up an estimation of how they are pronounced in Latin letters, but you need to know that hiragana are their own characters with their own pronunciation. I would do this using digital flashcards with the app Anki. Hiragana on one side and pronunciation recorded from a native speaker on the other. There are a lot of pre-made decks for this. You would only need to adjust what you want to have displayed on the card, or just try to ignore the romanization which these cards often have. In addition to that, it's a good idea to also use native content with Japanese subtitles. At this point, it's not about understanding the content, it's just about trying to recognize the hiragana based on what people are saying. This also helps you with distinguishing them from katakana and kanji. Katakana I would learn the same way. They are just a bit rarer, so you would be more dependent on flashcards as you won't be seeing them as often as hiragana. Now, I didn't forget about the kanji, but I wouldn't start learning them at this point. Instead, I would now focus on the pitch accent. The system in Japanese is rather simple. When speaking, the pitch of a word can either stay the same, rise higher, or fall lower. There are 4 different patterns you need to be able to recognize. Atamadaka, first mora high, all afterwards are low. Nakadaka, pitch is falling from high to low in the middle of the word. Heban, first mora is low, all afterwards are high. Odaka, like heban, and it is only distinguishable when a particle is following the word, which then has a lower pitch. English actually has something like this too. Just think about the difference between contract and contract. Same word, different pronunciation, different meaning. There are websites which let you listen to words and then choose the pitch you heard. I would do this for another 1 or 2 weeks until I am able to accurately hear the pitch. With that done, the next step would be learning vocabulary. And here's one important thing. Don't stress yourself out over not being able to perfectly recall words all the time, forgetting them again, or having trouble with that one annoying word which you just can't remember. That will happen. It is normal and will solve itself over time if you just continue. To start out, I would use a so-called I+1 vocabulary deck. These are vocabulary cards which use example sentences in which only one word is new to you. This allows you to build vocabulary like a ladder, one word at a time. In general, you have 2 options here. The first one is Kaiji 1.5k, which is a free deck you can download for Anki. The second is my favorite language learning app, Migaku, which has a full Japanese course integrated, which not only teaches you vocab with the I+1 method, but also grammar, and has some very useful additional functions I will get to later. It's basically a full pre-made package for everything you need, but it's a paid app. You can sign up with my link there, with which you get 1 month for free when you subscribe, or save 10% on a lifetime access. You can also use the link and make use of one of Migaku's other offers should they currently have one available. Speaking of grammar, now this will be a bit outrageous because I don't deem it that important, because a lot of it comes down to word meaning anyways, and you will see how they are used in the books you are reading and the shows you are watching. But it can be helpful to know the gist. So if you aren't taking the Migaku course, Japanese sentences basically announce their word function with particles after the word. You can see the most important ones in the video now. And verbs can change their last kana or drop it, followed by helper words to change their meaning. Again, you can see the most common ones in the video now. This basic knowledge will already help you a lot. Now of course there's nothing wrong with diving deeper into grammar. If you want to for free, then I recommend you check out Dolly. She has a really good grammar guide which bases its knowledge on what Japanese people learn about their own grammar and not how it's always explained to foreigners. Now while going through these I+1 decks, I would start some speaking practice too. You can skip this step if you only want to be able to understand Japanese. I also would focus solely on copying and use the shadowing method. Record yourself while you are trying to repeat the words and sentences as spoken by a native as closely as possible. Then compare your recordings and adjust your pronunciation. Now finally kanji. You will actually learn them together with the vocabulary. This is in my opinion a more useful approach than the usual of trying to remember 5 or more different pronunciations for every kanji and so on. Basically, I approach it from another angle. Learn what kanji a word is written with instead of trying to figure out how a kanji is pronounced in a word. If you are up for it, it can be helpful though to at least learn character and meaning for a few hundred kanji first, so you get a better understanding of how they work. Again, Migaku has a pre-made deck for this, but you can also grab the Kanji Damage Reordered Anki deck and just focus on meaning while ignoring the rest. But I wouldn't deem this kanji learning a necessity. The I+1 decks can be finished in maybe 6 months and will get you above JLPT N4 level, but not N3 yet. You now know the most common Japanese words, and this gives you a good head start into what you will do most of the time to improve your language skills. Watching shows and movies, playing games, reading books, and listening to podcasts. Just use what you would want to watch or read anyways, but do it in Japanese while also keeping subtitles Japanese only. Language learners call this immersion. You won't understand everything, but that's the reason you're doing this. What makes this learning is that you will look up everything you don't understand and create flashcards of all sentences in which just one word is new to you. Basically, you create your own personalized I+1 vocabulary deck with the words you personally really need because you encountered them in something you want to watch or read anyways. Now, this sounds like a lot of effort, but it actually isn't. You remember Migaku? The smartphone app can do all that. You just click on an unknown word and see a dictionary entry of it. Another click and it creates a flashcard with example sentence, picture and sound. Works on all websites and even YouTube videos. It also has a local player in case you can provide the video and subtitle file yourself. If you are using Migaku's browser extension, you can also use Netflix and Disney Plus with that function. There's also a free method for this. On a PC, you can use Yomitan to get the lookup function in your browser. In case you want to watch videos, you can combine it with ASB Player. It requires a bit more setup and is a bit more complicated to use, but you would get the lookup function and also be able to create flashcards for Anki like this. In case you own an Android smartphone, you can use the app Jidojisho. It isn't actively developed anymore, but the dev at least still seems to make sure that it continues to work in its current state. It is also compatible with Yomitan dictionaries. What you use is up to your preferences. Learning Japanese is not pay to win, just pay for convenience. Migaku gives you a quick, it just works way. The alternatives are free, but require some fiddling and can be rough around the edges as you need to make different programs work together. If you want to use this method with video games, you can use either Yomi Ninja or Game Sentence Miner. I personally prefer the first one, but that's because I'm using Linux and play on my Steam Deck most of the time. I was not able to get Game Sentence Miner to work on it so far, but if you're using Windows, it is basically just plug and play and gives you all the lookup and card creation features for this learning method, just for video games. At this point, learning becomes rinse and repeat. You watch, read, play and so on. You look stuff up and then create new flashcards. When repeating the flashcards, you try to repeat the sentences to improve your pronunciation. I would divide my learning routine into spending 25% of the time max on repetition of flashcards and 75% on immersion. And to be honest, I myself am currently not even using flashcards anymore and still learn new stuff all the time without really noticing it. At some point I just understand words I previously didn't. I can agree though that flashcards can be helpful for learning rarer words which you aren't encountering very often. But if you want to learn without flashcards, go ahead. It's possible. Now, if you don't know what to start with, I also have some recommendations. If you have access to a JapanVPN, my recommendation is ProtonVPN, you can look for Anpanman on Netflix. It's a really famous children's show in Japan. G's Sweet Home is also often recommended, but personally I'm not a fan of the modern 3D versions of it you can find on Netflix. If you're more of a reader, I recommend the websites Alphapolis and Easter. The former has a category for children's books, on the latter you can simply search for Kodomomuke, which means for children. And if you are a bit more advanced, I recommend shosetu.com. It's a website where writers can publish their works for free, and many of those have gotten manga or anime adaptations later on. Stuff like Apothecary Diaries actually started on that website. For gamers, the Pokemon franchise is very easy, but Ni no Kuni 2 is also not too hard. If you're looking for more, the website jpdb.io has some difficulty estimates for a ton of shows, novels and games which you can also use as a guideline. Alternatively, you can take a look at the website learnnatively.com, which bases the difficulty estimates on user reviews. Now, if you want to improve your output, speaking and writing, you would need to take it a step further at some point. You already got a good foundation here due to shadowing of sentences and words, but after you understand enough Japanese, you should practice forming your own sentences. When doing so, you need feedback. I recommend using Hi Native for this. Write something there and natives will correct it. Also, Google Docs is rather good as its spell and grammar check also works for Japanese. Just start writing and check your mistakes. It is of course not perfect, but it gets you to review your own output. Of course, there's still one problem left: motivation. If you have trouble just getting started or keeping at it, click on the video you can see on the screen now. In it, I explain how to find motivation and how to deal with pitfalls. See you again.